Today we're working in the kitchen, and I just wanted to get a few things done. I went to Kroger's and picked up some fresh vegetables. One in particular was, that I couldn't get out of the store, were these collard greens. I want you to see how large they are. Look at how large these collard greens are. And they are beautiful. So today, we're going to get these all cleaned up. I'm going to get them cut up. And then we're going to package them for the freezer. And that way, when I need collard greens, whether it's for just the big guy and I, or whether it's for guests, I'll be able to pull those collards out and have them ready to go and ready to cook. I also found this seasoning mix. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. I found some seasoning mix that I'm going to try out with them. That's by Booker's, and it's called Soul Food Starters. And it says collard greens seasoning mix. Collard green seasoning mix. So we're going to try this with them as well. And if they're good, I'll have to give you a review on that and let you know. And also, I think it has the address where I can actually send feedback to soulfoodstarters.com. They have starters for macaroni and cheese, starters for sweet potatoes. It's a one-stop shop for Thanksgiving, honey, let me tell you. And they had starters for peach cobbler. So I figure Booker's must be a Southern family. So we're going to be checking those out as well. So I'm going to get things cleaned up here. Then we're going to start to work on the greens. And once we've gotten those done, I've got some yeast and a little bit of flour fermenting. And then we're going to put together some bread that we're going to get into the refrigerator for tonight. Let it do a slow overnight rest. And then we'll take it out tomorrow and actually bake the bread. So let's get that done today. Okay, we've got the counter all cleaned up, so let's start to work on these greens. Now, I'm going to keep my bags because I want to put the stems of the greens down into these bags. So I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to just sit it off to the side. So this is going to be our discard bowl. And as we work our way through these collards, I have two big huge bundles of collards. Taking the plastic off of those. And we're going to talk about collards. Now, look at that leaf. Is that not gorgeous? Now, what I like to do is to fold my leaf over. I like to fold it over. And once I've done that, that allows me to just pull that stem right off. So I'm going to take those off. Got these in the wrong direction. I guess I need to put the discard bowl over here, and I'll lay the collards down in here. So I've got some large ones. I've got some small leaves as well. And we're going to work our way through these greens. You know, greens are not just a Thanksgiving or a special holiday meal. You want greens anytime you can get them. And certainly at the peak of the season, when they're growing, some say that they are better tasting during the fall, because especially after the first frost, that supposedly they're much better. I don't know how true that is, but I like greens anytime. So I'm just going to work my way through these greens and get them going. All right, well, I've gotten the stems off of all of the greens, and they're all here. I'm going to take all of these stems, and unfortunately, I don't have any animals that can eat the stems. You know, if you happen to be fortunate enough to have chickens or somebody who likes the green stems, then you can certainly give those to them as a treat. But I don't have that. So I'm going to put all of these into my grocery bag and get them packaged up to go out into the garage. Because I don't know if you know, but greens have a tendency to smell terrible after a while. And so we're going to get all of this bagged up and ready to go. Now, I do like to save the little rubber bands that come around them. They're quite handy in the kitchen. You can use them for other things, so I'll get those washed off and get those put away as well. So we're going to bag all of these up, get it tied up well, and get them into a trash bag. There's one batch. So that was 2 large bundles. That's one. And I think here's 2. Try to tie them up as much as you can to keep the odors out of your trash cans. I'm going to put these here, but I already know all of this is going to need to go into the garage trash can, so we're going to get that done. Now we need to wash these up, and I'm going to let them sit in some clean water for a while and get them all cleaned up. So I'm going to put it on some water here. Whoops, one I forgot. Found one. You know, that happens every now and then. You'll forget one. Or you get stuck in with other things. So, and that's okay. So that's one more. Let's put that up. And as you go through it, if you found some that needed to need to be cleaned up just a little more, now we're going to cut these. I had some little small leaves, not the larger ones. So I'm going to let these sit here. I'm going to put some vinegar in the water and just to get them nice and clean. But I also want to make sure that I've gotten all the stems out of there as well. So, clean water, and I'm going to change this water about 3 times. So this is the first good rinse. And you want to flip them over because that gives you a chance to see if you missed something along the way, which I did. And I like taking as much of that stem off as possible. And then we're going to get these cut. So as we flip, we'll see how they're doing. See these little shorter stems got caught up. And those are the things you find when you're cleaning your greens. Okay, so I'm going to go and get our vinegar, and we're going to pour some vinegar into the next batch. I'm going to empty this out. Remember, this was the first wash. Now, you know, the nice thing I have found that at Kroger's, their person who keeps the vegetables he washes down those vegetables often and sprays them really good. So most of the vegetables that you get are going to be pretty clean. And so I can tell you just by looking at this water that these greens really aren't that dirty. So we're going to get it good and clean, good and clean. And then we'll start to take them out, and if I find any more little stems that need to go, then I'll take care of that as well. Now let me get that vinegar. Now let me empty out this first rinse. Okay. I'm using cold water, and I'm going to put in about a half cup of vinegar. I'm purposely using this little measuring cup just for your sake, but normally I would just give it a splash. A little bit of vinegar. Now, while I'm letting the greens sit, I added about a half cup of my sourdough starter here. And I added in with about a cup of flour and a little bit of warm water. So all of that has been sitting. It is nice and bubbly and ready to go. So what we're going to do at this point, I'm going to add I have some milk here because I like using milk. I'm also going to add a little bit of sugar. I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of sugar. I'm going to add our milk. And I'm putting in about 1.5 cups of milk to our mixture. And I'm not going to give you the total exact amount of the flour because we're going to have to play with that just a little bit. I don't want to tell you a certain amount and then you just dump that amount in and decide that, oh yeah, that's going to work, because sometimes it doesn't. It depends on your flour, how old it is, how new it is, whether it's been sitting, if it's excessively dry. All of those things are a part of it. I'm going to put in a little drizzle of oil. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of oil. I'm using olive oil. I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of salt. So we'll get that in. Now I added in 1 more cup of flour. So that makes a total of about 1 3/4 cups of flour that I've added in. You'll notice I'm just using my wooden spoon here to get it started. And I'm going to add in 1 more cup. to, I'm using a 1/4 cup measure just because of the mouth of this container. And 4, there we go. So this is going to give us about 2 3/4. And I want this to be a well-hydrated dough. Notice how it's tightening up very quickly. We're going to give this an overnight rest. Again, I like the consistency. I'm going to sprinkle in one teaspoon and about a 1/2 of salt. So that's in. Now this is going to be just a little bit sticky. I'm going to use my spatula at this point. And then we're going to get in with our hands. Get dirty. Now this is still pretty liquidy, so I'm thinking I could probably stand to use about another 1/4 of flour, but I'm not going to use all the 1/4. I'm just going to use some of it. And I'm going to sprinkle about 1/8 of it in. Because once we put this on the bench to knead, then if we need more flour, that's where we'll add the flour, the additional flour. But I don't want to have too much flour because that makes your bread extremely dry. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to, over the next 2 hours, we're going to let this sit under a wet towel. And every 30 minutes, I'm going to stretch it. Notice I'm going in with my hands and just giving it a good squeeze. You can see it's not holding together yet. Those gluten strands have not set up. But over the next 2 hours, you'll start to see the difference. Now I can see that I'm going to need just a little bit more flour, mainly for my hands. It helps me pick it up. And if you find it gets a little too dry, then of course you can always add more, a little bit more liquid on your hands. Just wet your hands. I'd rather over knead it than to over flour it. Okay, as you can see, that's pretty wet. And we're going to let this sit. Let me get cleaned up here. Clean up my hands. Now, so what we'll do, I'm going to wet this towel real good. Use warm water. I'll change out this dishwater in just a little while. Put it over the top, and I'm going to sit this in a nice warm place for 30 minutes. Then we'll come back and we'll fold it. Now, while we're letting the bread go through its process and get those gluten strands moving, we're going to rinse our greens. You know, this is our second rinse. And I'm going to get these rinsed off. We had put in the vinegar just to make sure they're nice and clean. And they're squeaky. I could even feel the squeak at this point. What the vinegar also does is to do a little bit of tenderizing. And you notice I'm finding a few of those stems every now and then. So, you know, we're going to be finding those. You know, don't be gentle with them. And then we're going to rinse. So that was rinse number 2. I'm picking up those who escaped. And putting the little teeny tiny pieces over there in our bowl. Now, more cool water. And this will be our last rinse. And then we'll take them out, give them a cut, and add them to some freezer bags. All right, let's get ready to do some cutting. Okay, I've got the cutting board out. I have a nice clean towel here so that I can lay them out once they're cut. So I'm going to take some of these off. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to cut them into small bite-sized pieces. And if I find anything that needs to go back. So I'm going to stack quite a few of these larger leaves together. I know a lot of people like to roll them, and that's fine. You know, you do what's best for you. I like cutting mine into about 1 inch square. Or sometimes I even tear them. I'm going to turn those and get those cut. Still have some big pieces, just set those off to the side. So all of these are ready now, and they're going to go over here on the towel to drain. Like I said, we're going to stack them, get a couple of handfuls. everybody in the pile. I'm going to cut in two directions. First, we'll cut them vertically, and then we're going to cut them horizontally. And you end up with nice bite-sized pieces. Like I said, if I miss some down at the bottom, I'll get those the next time around. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing this until I get all of these cut. And make sure you have a nice sharp knife, which I did. Sometimes they get on the side and you just kind of have to give them another chop. Okay? Now let me see if I can either slide you or slide the greens, and I don't think that's going to be possible. So let's see if I can get you in here so you can see all of these beautiful greens that we have done today. So see if I can slide it just a little bit because it's moist, but there we go. There's all of our greens. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to get some freezer Ziploc bags. I'm going to get several because I want to divide this. I don't want to put it just in one bag. I'm going to divide it into several bags for several meals. So I'm going to put them in. I'm thinking I'll probably need at least 3 bags, maybe 4. So there's one bag, one nice bag. So I'm going to continue to do this, and I'll bring you back once I get all of them bagged. Okay, we got exactly 3 bags. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to zip each one up to and leave about 1 inch of airspace at this point, because we're going to go back and get most of the oxygen out of there. So like I said, I'm giving them a little bounce. And leave about 1 inch. Then I'm going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to give it a good press. And then I'm actually going to roll them. And we're going to roll as much of that air out as we possibly can. And once I've done that, and while I have it rolled, I'm going to take my finger and finish zipping the bag. And make sure that this bag is completely sealed. So there's, as you can see, it's pretty tight. There's the first bag. That's 1. We're going to do the same thing to bag number 2. Press, and you'll hear the air and you'll see it coming out. Then we're going to roll it, and then you're going to take your finger, run it along the top. If you have anything that gets in that seal, push it down in there. Open it up just a little bit. And make sure I've got everything out and seal it. So there's bag 2, our second bag, and last but not least, I'm going to do number 3. Roll all of that air out. Start at the end. And we're going to zip and close them up. So there's our 3 bags. 1, 2, and 3. How's that for a nice morning of work? They've been labeled. Collard greens ready for the freezer. Yummy. All right, guys, it's time for the first stretch, and we're going to stretch this at least 4 times. Now I'm looking at it, and as you can see, it's still pretty sticky. That's okay. I'm using my bench press just to make sure I pick everything up. But when I look at the bottom, it's still extremely moist. So I'm going to add just a little bit of flour on my hands so that as I work with this, we're going to be able to work just a little more flour in. So I'm going to sprinkle a little on the hands. And we're going to pick it up And we're going to see how that falls apart. That tells you those gluten strands have not caught up yet. They need a little more time, and that's okay. But we're going to pick it up and flip. That's 2. That's 3. Just a little bit of flour. Now, I really could do all of this using the bench press and just flip. And you're folding it over on itself. Notice we're scraping the bottom to make sure we've gotten everything off. That's the first fold. Okay. Now, so we're going to set that off to the side. I'm going to cover it again and give it another 30-minute rest. Okay. Wow, it's been so much fun spending time in the kitchen with you today. We have a delicious cucumber dip that we've put together, getting those beaters off, and that's ready to go. So I just have to put the top on it, and the big guy will be ready to sample that when he comes back. Oh, that's good. Yum. So the beaters are in there. I have one little piece of onion skin that got loose. So I'll put the top on this and get it ready to go into the refrigerator where it will set up quite nicely. Now, we're waiting for the next half an hour for our bread. And that's going to take a while. This is a process. Like I said, it's over 2 hours. And because we're working efficiently, and I'm not quite sure how all of this is going to play out since we're trying to do it all and without a computer where I can do all of the editing, then I thank you for your patience. You know, if you're not a member of the Ebony Ivy and Thyme family, certainly join us. This is not typical. I usually have everything edited perfectly and with music and voiceover and the works. But you know what? When, you have lemons and they're going bad on you, what do you make? Make lemonade. So we've had some things that have happened, so we're making lemonade, and we're determined that we're not as home cooks. We're going to still be efficient, and we are not going to roll over and let life get in the way of our sharing what we know. So I hope you'll come back. I hope you'll try this quick and delicious cucumber dip because it's wonderful for the summer and anytime you have friends that are coming over. The bread is amazing. Check out the community page because you'll get to see that along the way and see how it came out. So God bless you all. Have an absolutely wonderful day. Leona Dooley from Ebony Ivy and Thyme. Mwah! Blessings to you.